Castor's going to work with the pad today and then be introduced to the saddle some. So he's seen saddle pads. I don't know if he's seen this particular one before, but he has seen them in general. So I'm just kind of reviewing here, making sure he's cool with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just touch it on his back and then go ahead and put it on him. So he stayed nice and relaxed through that whole thing. If your horse doesn't, that's okay. Just break down the lesson and make sure he can do each little step. And then I'm just going to work on taking it on, putting it off, or putting it on and taking it off, and kind of moving it around on him, and he's staying nice and relaxed the whole time. Because I don't want to get stuck in saddle pads go right behind the withers all the time, in case it slipped off. Who knows? It could he could get ready for having like a neck cover on a blanket, so he could put it over his neck, slide it down his hindquarters, so again, so he could be ready for some kind of blanket or fly sheet, something like that. And it just good desensitizing. So I'm gonna bring out my saddle. So I have just an English saddle here, and I decided not to take the cover off because I wanted to kind of add that in as a desensitizing thing. So I'm gonna ask him to just bring his. I'm looking for the nose. He's a little confused, so I'm gonna get closer to his nose so I can get him to turn. But he thinks I want side pass, and I don't. I want a hand target with the nose. There we go. So I'm trying to get him to turn again. So I'm just going to heal his hindquarters and have him hand target here. I'm trying to move him over here. He's just confused because those cues there are pretty similar for him, and he's a lot more confident with that other behavior of Sid pacing toward me. So I just need to work on this more often. That looks fantastic. So really what I want to do here is then click right now and then feed again is what I should have done. And he's staying in this position, but that doesn't give him the opportunity to go into that other side pass position. So I should have done that right away. He did stay, but if I want to keep him in that position, then that's what I should have done. So again, like I talked about in other videos, I want to work on other behaviors that he's going to need in between. So like when I'm asking him to go places and he's always doing a behavior, then he doesn't want to stand still. For like this behavior specifically, and I'm going to desensitize the pad the same way I did on that other side. But for this behavior, he only wants to side pass one side, and then he'll switch really fast to the other side. So what I'm trying to do is add in another step to where he stands and is front on facing me while he stands and just hangs out there. So that's what we're working on with that behavior. But I was just adding in another part of that, and then I'm going to go ahead work with that pad again, and then we're going to do a little bit of some walking. So I want him to just kind of hang out with the saddle pad and walk around with it on, and it's pretty easy step before I have to bring out the surcingle or bring out the saddle or something like that, because I want him to have something on his back, but without the risk that it's gonna like fall off and scare him a lot. The pad could fall off, but I've already like moved it around on him and stuff, so it's not a huge deal. The saddle could fall off and scare him, and the surcingle could do that as well. So that's what I'm looking to get away from. So, but I'm just gonna go ahead and show him the saddle just like I did with the pad, and then I'm gonna let him see it, and then I'm gonna kind of just bring it up there and then click and then go ahead and feed him. So like I was saying earlier, I chose to keep the saddle cover on because I want to just have that be part of the saddle. So like I don't want to get stuck on the saddle always has it off, and then one day I go to tack him up and it's on, it scares him. So I want it to be the saddle is somewhat slightly variable. So that way when I'm saddling him with different saddles or different person saddles him, he's kind of used to that already. So like this session I'm going to keep the cover on, maybe next session I'll take it off, but I want him to get used to the cover as part of the saddle. It's not going to be this new thing in case, like, then you don't have to be like, oh, I need to take off the saddle cover every single time because I can't take it off once it's on its back. So it's just one more desensitizing thing, and it's a good thing to have him get used to because I always tack up with it on and then take it off while it's on his back, and then I'm going to be up there too, so I'd like to move around while I'm up there or whatever you got to do. So it's just another desensitizing thing. But he's seen the saddle. I went ahead and put it up on the rail, just kind of like I'm going to put it on his back, and then I went ahead and just set it on his back for a second and clicked. Then I'll set it on his back and leave it for a little bit longer. And I'm just kind of building up that time. So like here, and look at his body language. Like he looks fantastic. So I wouldn't just continue on to this point if he were tight and tense and worried about it, but he's doing fantastic. So he's generalizing this particular lesson pretty well. So he's like, okay, saddle pad goes on. Okay, different saddle pads go on. Saddle goes on. It's kind of the same thing. Surcingle goes on. He's just kind of like cool with all of that stuff. So I'm really happy with that. I'm also very happy with this, where he came right away to my hand target. That was fantastic. And then he switched to the other side. That was really good. So that's kind of what I was looking for in that lesson, where I was asking him to target my hand and stand straight on at me and face me. I wanted that slowness in this behavior versus just turning really quickly from side to side in that side pass towards. So different side, same process. I'm going to start over. I'm going to have him just look at the saddle, reward him for that, have him go ahead and touch him. I'm clicking there. And then it's kind of a process and it's kind of tiresome, um, because you do have to pick up the saddle and put it down. Always start with an English saddle. This one's really light, so it's a lot easier to do. And then I will move on to the Western saddle, which is harder, but I try to keep my sessions really short and just build everything up. Even if like Castor was going to wear only a Western saddle. For me, I like to have him used to the pad, the surcingle, an English saddle, and then a Western saddle, and maybe even a bareback pad if I wanted to. But I like to build it up in that way. And you don't have to. I know lots of people just desensitize to a Western saddle and that's all they use, or vice versa with the English saddle. But that's my process for this. So I love how relaxed he's. He's just kind of hanging out. He's kind of looking at the saddle pad there, but he's not super tense. He's chewing really well and like has those relaxed lips. His ears are moving. His neck's relaxed. He's engaged. So I love all of this. That's fantastic. And then from here, I would just build up the amount of time the saddle sits on his back, and then I'll have him walk with the saddle on without the girth. So it is important that you also have a saddle that you don't love that much. Like somewhat, I want it to fit him because I don't want it to like hurt his back. But in those beginning stages, I would like to have just an old saddle that if it falls on the ground, it's not the end of the world. And that you'll see here pretty soon, where I'm trying to get him to straighten out here, but where I'll put that on, and then just like the pad, I'll pull it off of him and it'll fall on the ground, and that'll just be a normal part of everyday life. So that if the saddle did fall off or did twist on him, it's not a big deal. It's just something the saddle does sometimes. So it's just important to train those behaviors in so that if something happens, the horse will be fine and that's normal for him.